Hello folks and welcome. Debian 12 Bookworm, Xfce desktop. I have a subscriber that is asking a question. Can we do manual backups, automatic backups on a daily basis, and can we turn that on and off? That's essentially what I think that person is asking. So what I'm going to be showing you today is fully automated backups. In other words, it'll perform a backup during login or not. You can just turn that off. It's as simple as one click. I'll show you how to prep up your internal hard drive if you're going to do this. I'll also talk about manual or semi-manual backups using a USB stick or an external hard drive. And then toward the end of the video, I will show you how to write script files if you don't know how to do that completely from scratch, and also troubleshooting, because it's one of those things where, you know, when you're trying to figure out what's wrong with your script if it's not doing what it needs to be doing. I'll talk about some troubleshooting tip. So this video will definitely be more than 15 minutes. But the front part of this, I'm going to talk about as you have some skill sets of how to write script files, and then just taking a look at the procedure. And then toward the end of it, I'll explain it a little bit better in detail. So I'm filming in 1920 by 1080. You can adjust your YouTube player if necessary. You are watching this on Linux for Seniors. There'll be an icon of a person floating around if you want to subscribe, and I recommend that so you can watch it at your leisure, because this video is going to be more than 15 minutes. So I got this off of wallpaperswide.com. The dude's looking in his computer, and let's face it, we all need to think about making copies of our personal files. Is it wise to normally put backups on your own internally, your internal drive that you're running off of? Probably not. So I have the luxury of having an internal hard drive that's not part of my booted up drive as the secondary hard drive, if you want to call it that, on a tower computer. I also have a USB or USB stick, USB hard drive, USB stick backup solution for you also. This one is auto-mounted, denoted by the MNT, and this one's not. So this will be more for a manual backup solution. This is fully automated. When I delete all these folders, it re-replicates them as soon as I log in. If they're already here, then our user for today is Sam. It's just a made-up name. So if Sam is making changes to his documents, for instance, creating folders and files and editing things, all of that stuff will be re-replicated when he logs in to that folder. And the rest of these go for the same. My stuff is like a personal folder, if you want to call it that. Pics is pictures. I just renamed some of the folder names. So I'm going to first give you a demo of this. All this stuff happens in the background. Okay? And all the magic is done through this file right here. On login, I can turn that on and off. So the subscriber asks, can I do this thing on a daily backup? You can, as long as this is on. When you turn it off, it's no longer backing up during the login. I'll talk about this file in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to make two windows, Control N, so you can see this. This normally runs in the background. The only thing I would see when I log in is the dude's wallpaper there. So I'm going to find my script files. You can put these anywhere, but I just put them in document scripts just to make that, well, where you can easily find things. So I don't normally recommend this, but I'm going to do an edit, preferences, and advanced, and execute shell scripts. Again, I don't recommend that at all. If you're going to do this temporarily, no problem. All right, now I'm going to run it. And this is what it's going to do every time that I actually log in. It's going to replicate whatever I had in the script file. So if it's one folder, it's one folder. If it's 16 folders, then it's 16 folders. Okay, it's going to do whatever I tell it to do in here. All right, normally, again, this is not configured this way for your file manager, because that's not a good security thing. Okay, I'm going to reopen that. So normally, your file manager looks like this. Where's that file? Right here. So now it doesn't have the execute on there. So as soon as you double click, it just opened up my text editor. So in this case, what I would do is send that to the desktop as a link. I'll redo that. so you can see it happening. All right, so let's take the script apart for a second, because this is the first requirement to do automated backups. And I'll talk about writing this file completely from scratch for you folks that have never done this before. So I'm going to be rsyncing 4 folders in this case, and I'm using the -- deletes on the end because I want it to sync up file for file, folder for folder. Toward the end of the video, I'll explain all about that. And my only recommendation at this point too for this distribution is just to leave your folder names if you self-create them without spaces. You'll get less script failures when you do that, especially on the tail ends. Okay, now that you've seen that one, we can focus in on this one for a second if you like. And this drive is a lot slower. This could also be a stick, and that particular one, I'm going to send that also to the desktop, and I'll replicate these as I explain them. Okay, this obviously is a lot slower process. I normally don't like to open up script files while they're running, but I'm just going to briefly show you what's in there without edits. Same deal, except what I'm doing here is the device name here is not auto-mounted compared to the other script file. Okay, so sometimes this produces a weird error when I do this. And more importantly, you can see it replicating. So in the next segment here, I will talk about creating that file, and more importantly, how to make sure that that drive is auto-mounted so you can do fully automated backups. I probably should have closed that window to let you see there's no terminal boxes that'll pop up when you run these. So if you're just like this and you run that, even to the USB device, you won't see a thing. Okay, I'm just opening up the file manager so you can. Now, you can open up your application finder this way. You can also open up your application finder this way, Alt and F3. If you're on a laptop, it may have to be Function Alt and F3 because a lot of your F keys are pre-assigned. But find your disk utility nonetheless and go find your drive. I have several. So the one in question that I'm using is this one. If you are using a raw hard drive, then you'll probably end up hitting the plus and formatting the drive, but this one's already formatted. And I formatted this with extension 4. So just give it a name, next. And this is the important part. Make sure you edit your mount options. This is normally how your drive is. You turn it off. And the mount options are mounted startup and show in user interface. Okay. Cancel. Check it again. Cancel. Very important. Restart your computer. Verify that the drive states, when you open this file manager, whatever name you gave your drive, make sure it says MNT in front of it. This one here is not auto-mounted because it has the word media on it. Sam is our user today, made up name, and the name of the device. But you can see this one has a cryptic name in the front. That's the name of that drive that the system gave it. Your number will be different, but more importantly, make sure you have an auto mount. So you got that taken care of. Now let's talk about this file here. All right, I'm going to delete that so we can just do it from scratch. So normally you would come in here, session and startup in your settings. You can go this way too if you like. Okay, just session and startup, application auto start. Everything that's here with the check mark is going to be auto started on login in this case. And you have some different options though. So give it a name. What's a good name? How about backup 1? Need some more coffee. Auto backup 1 sounds good to me. Description is optional. Command. Let's find that script. It's in documents. It's in scripts. Does it have to be there? No, it can be in any folder you want. Backup 1 is our one that we want full automation on. And that's this one. And that's just a link, of course. But the actual path is now put in. Now you can see the path. And now comes the caveat. How do you want this to trigger? You can do, see this part here can be different on some machines. So on login, log out, shutdown, restart, and so forth and so on. If you choose this option here, just keep in mind that it's going to be trying to do a backup while you're logging out, not logging in, which is a lot different from these. If you decide to use one of these, if you haven't seen my video on what this thing does, this, as soon as I double click this big red button, it'll power the system down almost instantaneously. I always recommend that you save your files before doing this. However, when you use that in conjunction with logout, it doesn't have enough time to back up. I think this will actually override this anyways, if you use that. So if you are wanting to do auto backups on log out, do not use buttons like this, is my recommendation to you. If you're using log in, then I don't have a problem with that, because it's backing up as you logged in. Now I created that and it's at the bottom, and if I go back and back in here, it re-alphabetizes and it's at the top because it's alphabetized and it has A in it. The beauty of this is you can turn that on and off. Walking over to the folder, one more reminder, do not move this. Do not rename that file either. You can edit it, yes, but don't rename it, because you told that auto start where to find this. You can put as many rsync lines as you want. My advice to you is not to put spaces in folder names. Okay? And again, it's using the dash dash deletes. That means everything will be in sync. All right, I'm gonna just briefly make mention of that one. That one does not have auto mounts, and this one is just the general name of your drive right here. You can literally copy that and paste it in your scripts. You can do the same thing with the auto mount. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about details. So if that's all the information that you needed to get this going, then I will say thank you for watching. For the ones that want to do a little bit of troubleshooting and know how to write scripts, then hang on. So I'm going to move right into Sam's home folder and tear the script apart. First of all, scripts are written, I'll get rid of the shortcuts because that's exactly what they are, just shortcuts. These are written with a text editor. The text editor that you have on this system is going to be Mousepad, and it's plenty good for this process. So you create yourself a text file, okay? And when you get done, you make sure that the properties on this is set for allowed to be ran as a program. I'm going to open this thing up for you and make it larger. All I'm doing here, folks, is holding down my control key while scrolling up on my computer mouse to make it bigger for you. And I want to tear this line apart. So that's the bin bash statement. I know some of you folks have seen some of my videos, but again, I never know when I have a new viewer. So here's the Linux file system, and here's bin. It's just a link to it. In here is bash, born again shell, and I'll find it for you here. So there it is. So all this is a reference to where this is located. On most Linux distributions, it's located in bin, and bash is located there. That's why you'll see a lot of script files written just like this. Because on most Linux distros, if you are using born again shell, that's where it's located. So all that back end means is where it's located, the actual path. The front end of this thing here, I'm going to click out for a second and highlight these two guys. On your keyboard, if you hit the shift key and using the upper row key of your keyboard, if you type in shift and 31, it'll produce those two symbols. On your modern keyboards, if you look real close, the number 3 has a pound symbol on it also. And the number 1 key has an exclamation point. That's how you produce those symbols. Shift 3, shift 1. All right, and then the /, not to be confused with the \, is normally found on your, if you look at your keyboard and find your right shift key, look to the left of it. You'll see a / with probably a question mark on it. So you want to always move forward. Let's use that as a mnemonic. You're moving forward. So /bin, /bash, no spaces in this line whatsoever. So basically that tells the script to look for born again shell, and then we can do commands. I also used this the other day. I did a video on how to put music for startups, and it started with the bin bash statement, and then it had other options. rsync is remote sync. It's very powerful. It is used on not only internally sync ups, but it's also used computer to computer. rsync space -a is the archive option. I sometimes will put a VH in here, and then if your system displays a terminal box when it runs rsync statements, they will be displayed in here. On this system, it doesn't do that, so I don't need to put the VH in there. So the next item is I put in rsync space -a space and a tilde. Tilde just represents Sam's home folder. So I'm going to open that path. So I don't need to type all that. I just put a tilde in there. The beauty of also using just a tilde is the fact that I don't need to type in the name of that stuff, but I can also use the script file elsewhere. Now I'm going to give you an interesting item. This script file was written in another machine, in another Linux desktop. All I did was substitute the folder names and the device names. I kept everything else the same. All right, so this is our source, and it needs to be spelled the same way as our, where's our file manager, as our folder names. So then we have the name of the device is, in this case, the auto-mounted hard drive. It has an MNT on it, and that number can be found right here. There's two ways of copying this. This is the easiest. Right-click, copy, and I'll paste it in here for you. The second one is if you either hit this over here, Application Finder, or you can also use Alt and F3 and type in disks and go find your backup drive. In my case, it's this one. Gear symbol, edit mount options, like I told you guys earlier. This part can be copied. Cancel, cancel, and I'll paste it on the line below it. The only difference on the one on the top, it has a / on it. These matches. So my suggestion is if you try to type in this number, there's a high probability of a failure. I've done it many times over the years. I don't like to type in these things when I can copy and paste them. All right, the back end of this is the folder creation process. So let me bring this up for a second. So on backup 1, because that's the name of this drive right here. Oh, I failed to make mention of that. I apologize. Let me back this up. You want one space in here, by the way. If you do it this way, that's a failure. It just won't replicate. One space. I heard this before. Somebody likes 2 spaces. Whatever floats your boat, I like 1 space. That's not right. 1 space. There you go. So there's a clear separator between the source to destination. So again, this is our destination, the name of the drive, and then we're going to be making a folder with a / document. So it creates this. And then on the tail end, I put a space in here and -- delete. That tells the system that I want this synced up file for file, and that includes if I had removed something earlier after I synced up the first time, it will remove stuff out of here also. If I leave this out, and some people do, it only syncs forward and never deletes anything out of this folder. Some people actually prefer that option, believe it or not, and I've shown that before. The -- deletes will sync this folder file for file, folder for folder, including removing stuff. So let me give you the example. Sam, our user for today, is adding and removing and changing. It will do the same over here when he logs in because the script is ran on login. So that means whatever is in this folder will also get removed and added and changed. So these two are always in sync when you run this script file, either automatically or manually. The second line has the same rsync lines and the same mount points. It says pictures, but this is perfectly legit. Let's take a look at that. It says pics. This is still pictures. All I did was shorten the name. Pictures and pics. And then I have the dash deletes on the end. Music to music, and then my junk to my stuff. That's also perfectly legit. So in this folder here, these files match. My stuff matches my junk. Is that clear? Okay. So basically I'm just changing the folder name on the end. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about troubleshooting. This is important. So if you want your script files to run fairly trouble-free, my recommendation is when you create your own folders, I'm not talking about the existing ones, is to not use spaces if you want your scripts to run fairly trouble-free. So I'm going to give you an example of a failure. Okay, you see 4 folders here, right? I'm going to go into the script and actually add a space on purpose, because we're creating this folder here, as you saw, from this one. But I added a space in here, and I'll let you see what happens to the script. I'm going to wipe these clean. Let me go find my script file and make a shortcut of it to the desktop. And also run it. It only replicated 3. And the reason for that is, let's tear this apart logically. So you wrote in your bin bash statement, you put in your first rsync line, and it said to do documents to documents. You have that folder, yes. Then you did pictures to pics. You have that folder, yes. So there's nothing wrong with these 2 lines. And you got music, obviously, to music. So we know these 3 work. But the last one, it didn't replicate. So that's where we need to investigate the line. It could be on the front end, it could be in the middle, it could be at the end. So let me let you look at this methodically. We're going to first take a look at the front end. Our sync statement looks the same as the one before it, and then all the way up to the tilde, everything looks the same. Now we can start over to here and verify the folder name. Is it spelled the same way? Uppercase M and J looks the same to me. That part more likely is fine. You got 1 space in here? Yes. Did you hand type this number? If you did, you may want to copy this and paste it on the next line just to verify that, or just take a look at it. If you did it the other way that I mentioned earlier, copy and paste, then you're good to go. So that part is probably good. So let's take a look at the tail end, because something's wrong with it. Do you have the proper name and you have the proper spaces? Well, I have an extra space in my stuff. Could that be the problem? Well, let's find out. Save. Go back to the drive and run it again. That was the problem. And you can always take the script apart and change some things to it if you want to keep. Let me do it in a different way. I am going to put in an underscore in here. It'll create a new folder, by the way, when you do this. Okay, so this will remain. So that's the new folder, and that'll be synced up now, and this will not be synced anymore because you changed the name of the folder. Okay, so I'm just talking troubleshooting a little bit. This goes on the same lines with your other script file when you're running it manually. I'm just not going to run it. Okay, so the same thing would be in here. If you decide to put in extra spaces and stuff, my advice is not, if you want your script files to run. So the dash deletes, again, sync these up file for file. If you remove that, in other words, Control X, then you're only syncing forward, and it never erases anything in this folder because you told it not to. The only time you have a full sync up file for file, folder for folder, is when you have that on. Don't forget the spaces. It's always important to double check all your work. Okay? Always run your script file also before you put them in automation mode. So again, as a recap, this file here is a pointer. All it does is it points to where that script file is located. In this case, it's called backup 1, this one. But this one is not located on your desktop. It is literally in your file manager under where you left it. In this case here. So if I change its name, I will have to fix it in here also. You'll have to edit that or remove it and add a new one. But that doesn't mean I can't add more folders during the backup. I'm just going to give you this real quick tip. Highlight the line that's last. Copy that. Click enter and hit Control V. Paste a new line. These are both identical currently. So I'm going to pick a new folder to sync up. Let's go to Sam's home folder. Let's do downloads. So I'm going to change this line here. Don't forget to change the tail end also, because you just copied it. Save your script file. And now when you auto run this right here, when you auto run that, it will look for that script file and re-replicate whatever you just added. Sorry. Oh yeah, that's right. We're just going to wipe this because I was playing with that earlier. So now when you replicate backup 1, it will add the extra folder. So I always check your script files after you edit them to make sure they work. So you can do some troubleshooting in case they don't work and you want to put that in full production mode for full automation. Okay, so just keep in mind that it's looking for that constantly. So again, my tip for you is don't move this file after you start using it. Don't rename it either. And always back up your files and make a folder, create a new folder, backups, and dump them in here to have them as backups. In case you make a mess of things, you can always replace it. So if you inadvertently deleted that, you know, mine has been edited, but anyways, my original looks like this. Copy and paste. I'll wipe the drive. Keep in mind that my copy is no longer linked, is it? It gives me a weird looking error here. So I need to delete that, go back in here and open that and create a new link. Now it looks healthy and replicate. And this was my original file. So always be careful when you delete things and make copies of your current one. Thank you for watching.